Hi, everybody. This is Bradley Benner with Lead Gadget in the ATM. Tonight is December 10th, 8 p.m. Eastern. And tonight we have another Q&A webinar. So don't have anything to show you guys. Unfortunately, have to shift my strategy with training to be more about Q&A and maybe a demo build every now and then. But I'm going to be unable going forward to be able to show many of my sites like I used to, because we've got a troll lurking amongst us that apparently likes to report sites that are shown publicly, and then they get de-indexed. And in an effort to save the time that I invest into these sites, I cannot show them publicly anymore, or else they will get de-indexed, and it's a complete waste of my time. And unfortunately, I don't have the luxury of a bunch of available time to do that sort of thing. So occasionally I'll do a demo build that I will expect to be de-indexed, just to prove a point or to show a particular strategy or method, but I don't have one at the moment. So tonight is going to be strictly Q&A. And I do want to talk about over-optimization of sites a bit. Last Friday when we had the webinar with Brian and the Ring Partner, Taylor from Ring Partner, Brian mentioned he wanted me to talk about that a little bit as well tonight. So I will share a little bit on that as well. But other than that, it's going to be about Q&A. And unfortunately, it looks like there's not very many people here. 4 people RSVP. That's rather weak. So I'll talk about the over-optimization thing. That'll give people some time to come in and maybe post some questions. I see a couple questions from Paramjeet on the page already, which I will get to those in a little bit. And then we'll wrap it up if there's no other questions. So I highly suggest, if you guys have any, if anybody else kind of straggles in, please post your questions on the events page. All right. Or else this was going to be a very short webinar, which is fine. I'm okay with that. We've all got better things to do. All right. So with that said, I'm going to grab the screen, and then I'm going to pull up Firefox and go in and share a tool that I use. It's free, but it's for, excuse me, let me shut some of these open programs down. And I think we're good to go. Okay. All right, so I'm going to grab the screen, and we're going to get into over-optimization. Okay, you guys should be seeing Firefox now. And something else I'm going to do is bring open a notepad file and increase the font size so you can see some notes that I'm going to write. All right, so the first thing, guys, and I'll drop the link here on the events page in just a moment. There's a tool. It's a free tool that I use. It's called SEOcentro.com. SEOcentro.com and they've got several different types of SEO tools. It's again 100% free. I'm going to drop this link on the events page. This is the keyword density tool that I use. Keyword density tool. Because I happen to see some of the other sites that other people are doing that are just way, way, way over optimized, guys. And this is not 2005 anymore. Okay. Google's algorithm is so much smarter than what I think a lot of people give it credit for. And since the onset of Hummingbird and now RankBrain, which is kind of like the second generation of Hummingbird, it's Hummingbird with some additional semantic web engines kind of integrated into it. Okay, so it's a lot more of a semantic web engine now than it had been in the past. So it understands natural language patterns a lot better and relationships between words, and the algorithm is starting to understand what words are. It's starting to identify words with things and items and entities, and not just abstract words, which it used to, as an algorithm, it always had done that. So anyways, without getting into the weeds and getting too far into theory with why their algorithm is so much smarter now, let's just say that it understands natural language patterns a lot more, and it's able to identify over-optimization very, very quickly, algorithmically. So it's 100% automatic. And if you're spamming it with using the same keyword or using keywords that are just not that don't fit well and things like that, then that's going to end up causing you problems. Okay. So there's a simple, ever since I think it was Panda 3 or 3.1, whatever, it was back in May of 2015, 2014. Yeah, 2014. I've been using a specific set of keyword density rules that has been working really well, and it's no different for the ATM sites or the ATM builds. Okay, so SEO Central is a great tool because what you can do is just grab a web page URL, paste it right in here, fill out the little caption, hit submit, and it will analyze the content on the page and will give you the density breakdown based on a singular phrase, 2-word phrases, and 3-word phrases. All right, so let me just find. I'm trying to think of how I could find. I know what I'll do. I know there's somebody building a bunch of SEO type sites for SEO services. So let's do, that's probably, yeah, okay, SEO. Let's say, I don't know, Renton, VA. That's kind of close to me. I've seen a whole bunch of Surf Shaker sites or no, actually ATM sites with these types of keywords. So let's see if I can find one of them right now. I saw one the other day in my own backyard, so maybe I'll just look up Culpeper. Let's do that. We'll see me, but then all of a sudden we'll see a bunch of Surf Shaker sites. Or I'm sorry, ATM sites. I keep saying Surf Shaker. That's my fault. This is one, I think. Maybe. Maybe not. Just give me a minute, guys. I'm trying to find one. I know I just saw some the other day. I was just looking at them, and I was like, wow, somebody's trying to hammer away at some of these. Maybe it's SEO service. Since there's nobody here, I don't care if I'm taking my time. You guys will just have to deal with it. Just wait a minute. I'm trying to find some of these that I can share. I think that's the same one I was just looking at. I should have had an example site pulled up, but I didn't. I just got in the door, so I didn't have a chance to pull it up. I just want to find one to show you guys what it looks like over optimized. And unfortunately, I'm not seeing one. So I might have to just pull somebody else's web page. Yeah, let's just do that. Let's just pull somebody else's web page and see what we can find. So we'll do like SEO services, Fredericksburg, and we're going to use SEO because Fredericksburg should be. I'm curious as to how other people are doing. Let's go to like page 2, find one on page 2, and we'll take a look and see what we can determine from that. So let's look at this one. A home page isn't going to be the best page to do it because we'll go ahead and use this page. But typically a home page doesn't have a lot of content on it for most like normal type websites, right? For blogs they do because it'll have a blog post on the home page usually. But for typical like business type sites, it's going a homepage is kind of like static. It's like a billboard. It's a call to action, that kind of thing. So you end up usually ranking inner pages, not the homepage, right? But in this case, we'll go ahead and use it because there's enough text on this page where this will be a good example. So I'm going to go ahead and copy this URL. Okay, we're going to come over to the keyword density tool, SEOcentral.com. I'm going to paste this in, stick my CAPTCHA, fill out the CAPTCHA, click submit. Now this is going to analyze the page. Does it very quickly. And it's going to give me my keyword densities based on singular terms, one word. If we scroll down, it'll show 2 terms or 2-word terms right here, 2-word terms. And then we're going to scroll down, and underneath that, it's going to show 3-word terms. Okay, that's it right here. All right. And so the rule of thumb ever since Panda 3 or 3.1 or whatever number it was, there's so many of them, it's hard to keep up with the numbers, but it was back in around April or May of 2014. This was the actual number that seemed to be working well, and it's been working ever since for pretty much every site that I build. So it's 2% for singular terms. Let me back up for a minute. Singular terms, 2%. Okay. Then for 2-word terms, 1%. And lastly, 3-word terms, you should be staying within 0.02%. Okay. Now that's going to be the rule of thumb. Obviously, there's going to be times where you're going to break that. And with a traditional style site, it's oftentimes that the brand name itself is going to end up exceeding these thresholds at some point. And that makes sense because it's the brand name. And let me explain something too, by the way. When this tool analyzes the page, it's not just analyzing this, which would be the article body, right? That's typically, like, for example, if you're using an SEO plugin that analyzes the content of a post or a page, all it analyzes is the content within the body, the article body. That's it. It does not analyze the content in the widgets, in the header, in the footer, and in the alt text. Sometimes it will in the alt text of the images, but it won't in the alt text of any sidebar images, anything like that. And so oftentimes and I don't ever allow plugins to tell me whether my page is optimized or not, guys, because they're dead wrong. For the longest time, Yoast, if you used the Yoast SEO plugin and you turned all the lights green, you were way over optimized. So I know they just recently changed within like the last month or so. I haven't played with it because I just never use plugins to tell me whether a page is optimized or not. But if you use those types of plugins, all it's going to do is analyze the actual content body, the body of the article body. And so it's going to overlook all of the additional places that the keyword could be posted or listed on the page for the full page. But remember, when Google comes and crawls a page like this, they don't just look at the article body. They're looking at the titles. They're looking at the headers. They're looking at the navigation links. They're looking in the sidebar. They're looking at the alt text and the images. They're looking in the footer at all the different keywords in the footers. So you've got to think about, if the page is completely even if this article body isn't over optimized, it very well could be that the page is over optimized for the finished product, if that makes sense. So SEO Central will analyze the entire page. So that's why I like this, because it's free to use, it's quick and it's easy, and I use this to try to stay within those parameters. And again, at times, if you've got, like, let's say this guy, Local Ingenuity, if he had Local Ingenuity listed several times on the page, because, like, in the footer and the sidebar and stuff like that, he could go over that threshold quite easily, this threshold here, with the brand name. But that's not usually much of an issue. I mean, you don't want to go way overboard, but usually the brand name's not the issue. It's keyword over optimization that's the issue. Okay. So I always try to stick within these terms, and ATM builds are no different. So, one thing that you can do to determine if you're over optimized or not would be to have a test WordPress install somewhere, like just on a dummy domain that you have, an XYZ, something like that. You can even set it to no index and settings, reading, and then set it to ask search engines not to index this site, so that it's just a demo site that you use for testing things like plugins, content configurations, and that sort of thing. You should have one of those anyways. You should have at least one. Okay. And then add your content that you're going to add to the ATM for a site build. Unspin a version of it if you're using spun content. Run it through an unspinner, and unspin a 3 or 4 versions of it, and create a few posts on your test site, and then come grab the URLs from the posts and come over to SEO Central and test them. Run them through and let it analyze the page, and then take a look and see. And that includes with your images, everything. Try to unspin it. Get some final, in air quotes, some final versions of the post, or that would be outputted by the ATM when the site is deployed, and just run them through, post them or publish them to a WordPress test site, a handful of them, 3, 4, 5 versions of it, and then just grab the URLs and come over and test it. That's all you got to do. And then just take a look at your terms. Okay. And there's a couple ways to, if you're way over optimized, there's a few things that you can do to change it. Number one, you can go in and start switching up the keywords within the content if you're over optimized. Number two, you can add additional content, because that will dilute the percentages if that's the case. So sometimes that's what I'll do, is I'll just come in and add additional content if it's a little bit over optimized, instead of actually de-optimizing the content. It just really depends. But the other thing is, you got to, guys, remember, when you if you're doing keyword research properly, you should have a really big list of related keyword phrases anyways. So for example, if you're just used to saying, this is some content. And then you have your keyword here, and then more content, you know, and then you got a keyword again somewhere else. Instead of using the keyword all the time, what I like to do, guys, is and you guys know I use Power Suggest Pro. I freaking love that keyword tool. It's because it's so fast to spit out a ton of keywords and they're related for the most part. You got to do some cleanup once with the output list, but to get rid of non-relevant terms. But for the most part, it's really, really good and it's fast. So what I do is once I've cleaned my list of keywords that I've extracted from Suggest, then I end up creating a short code, not a custom list sometimes, but most of the time it's just a short code in the ATM. And what I'll do is I'll leave my main exact matched keyword in the title, the SEO title of the content. So that's when you're creating the page before you deploy. I use that as the SEO title. Okay. And then I'll use an LSI keyword, which is a variation of the keyword, right? Latent semantic indexing. So it's a co-occurring or a synonym. It's a co-occurring keyword or a synonym of my main keyword in the H2 tag, which is the page title, right? The SEO title is going to be your URL. It ends up being the main page, the meta title once the site is deployed. And then what I do is I like to create an H2 statement, and it's not just a keyword. It's a conversational statement that will have an LSI keyword in there. And I usually omit the geographic modifier. Like I don't put the city name in. If I do anything, any type of geographic modifier in the H2 tag, it's either a county or a state, right? It's not the city name, because the city name is already in the SEO title when I build the site, along with the exact match keyword. So I'll use an LSI, and if I use a geo modifier in the H2, the page title, which is a conversational title, it's like announcing what the content is about. And I use a couple tools to generate dozens and sometimes even hundreds of page titles, and it makes it easy to just give some variety to the site builds. But I'll just use an LSI for that. And then in the content itself, if I'm doing an 800, word article, then 2%, what would that be? 10% would be 80, 5% would be 40. So 2% would be 20 times, something like that. And so what I always try to do is keep it below that. And usually I'll just end up having, no kidding, like I'll usually just have the exact match keyword about 3 or 4 times on the page. That's it. For everything else, I'll have a short code that has my related keyword phrases, and anywhere that I thought that the keyword should go, I'll usually just put the short code in there. And that way, when the site deploys, it's going to swap the keyword out with one of those related keyword phrases throughout every page or post, I should say, with a big long list, because usually my keyword list, guys, ends up being anywhere between 250 to 600 keywords, depending on the niche. Okay. But I usually never have less than 250 keywords, but oftentimes it's around the 600 mark. And so that'll give me a really big short code that I can use. It gives me a whole bunch of LSI terms that I can use. So I end up usually only having the main keyword, the exact match keyword, in the SEO title. And then throughout the content body, I'll have it 3 or maybe 4 times, but that also includes the alt text of images. So if I'm adding an image to the page, or usually I add 3 to 4 images for every site build. For every page, I mean, and I'll end up having the exact match keyword in one of the alt texts for the images. And then the other 3 images will have, again, the keyword short code or a generic term. Okay. So that I'm not over optimizing the images either. So that, if that makes sense. So that way it gives a real good variety of keywords across the page, and it's not hammering Google over the head with over optimization of the same keyword phrase, because Google will pick that up and will penalize your site. Okay, it just will never rank well. It might for a brief period of time, but oftentimes it will end up tanking very quickly. All right, so that's it. SEOcentro.com, easy tool to use. Just start learning, start going through some of your sites if you have some sites that aren't working that well, and take a look at them and just see, are you way over optimized? It very well could be that you are, and if that's the case, there's nothing you can do about sites that are already deployed, but you can, going forward, make a concerted effort to try to make the sites not quite as optimized. All right. And try to stick within these parameters, and I'll post these on the events page. So that's all I had. All right. Okay. Let's see. We have let's see, Aaron says, I'm sorry, I'm going to get to Param's questions here in just a moment. Aaron says, with ATM sites, it is, let's see, yep, that was me. Aaron, what was you? I'm not sure what you're talking about. If you can clarify, please. With ATM sites, it is our tag pages at the bottom of the page and the random post in the sidebar that put it over. Well, it depends on how you build, Aaron, because I use my keyword. Actually, when I generate my keyword list, I just said I have anywhere between 250 to 600 keywords. And you know, I don't know that Dawn's going to like this, but what I do, what I do for tags, so that my tags are incredibly unique, is let me just pull up an Excel file real quick, because I want to show you guys what I do for tags. And my tags are always unique. I know that I know what Brian and Dawn tell you. And so, you know, follow what they do. That's fine. I'm not telling you to do this. I'm just telling you what I do. And I never have any issues with this. And if I have 600 keywords, so I'm going to say keyword 1, I'm just going to make sequence real quick, and I'm going to show you exactly what I do. So like I said, I'm usually somewhere around 600 keywords. Okay. So you guys can see this now, right? If I need to, I'll increase the font size. Let me do that actually, so you guys can see this a little better. All right. So if I got 600 keywords, what I usually do is about 12 tags. So what I will do is I will take whatever my keyword count ends up at, which in this case is 612 keywords. And I'll just take a calculator and I'll say 612, excuse me, delete 612 divided by 11. Okay. What that does is it makes 12 groups of keywords. If I divide this 612 by 11, it's going to end up, my results are going to be 12 groups of keywords that are 55, in this case, 55.6. So I would say I need to break up these groups of these keywords into groups of 55 or 56 keywords per group. Now, I don't get real precise about this. I just do that as a ballpark. So for example, if it says, I'm going to say 55 to 56 keywords per group. So I'm going to scroll down here and I'm going to go to 56 and I'm going to insert a blank. Okay. Then I'm going to scroll. I'm going to add another 55 on top of that. So what's that going to be? That's going to be what? About 112 roughly. So I'm going to go to 112 and insert another one. Then I'm going to say, okay, now let's add 56 on top of this. This is going to put us at 120, 170-ish, right? So I just, again, it doesn't have to be real precise. It's just got to be ballpark. So let's add another 55 in here, or 56. That's going to put us at 226-ish, right? So I'm just going to keep doing this until I have my 11 blanks in here, which is going to give me a total of 12 groups of keywords. All right, so let's go through another one real quick. That's going to put it at 70, 80, 83, somewhere around there. Insert. And I'll stop at one more group just to show you. You guys get the idea, but we'll go to 34, about 40, 340. Okay. So anyways, you guys get the idea. Then what I do is I take my keyword set like this. I'm going to scroll down to the first blank. So I'm going to stop at the last keyword in that set. I'm going to copy it. And then I'm going to go over to my Get Syntax tool. Whoops, that wasn't it. Let's go to another one. I meant to click the one above it. This tool. I go to this tool. I paste my list in. Get rid of that blank. I click spin. Now I click copy. Now I've got my keywords already in a Syntax for me. Let me open up. Let me see. I'll just use the notepad that we just had so you guys can see it already. And this, guys, I always have a text file for every site build. Every site build I've ever built, I have a backup text file that I use as my notes. And I build the entire page on a text file first. And then I just copy and paste it over to the ATM, and I always have a backup of it. But then what I do here is this is where I have my short code, right? So it would be, let's say, US, city, state, short. Let's say that's my short code. Then I add my comma, and then right there where that cursor is, I start my second set of keywords that I just go right back to here. Oops, that wasn't it. Excuse me. Might go back to my Excel file. And I start down at the next beginning set right here and scroll down to here, copy, go over to my Get Syntax, Control A, delete, Control V, get rid of my blank at the end, click spin, copy, come over here. I paste it in just like this. Whoops, excuse me. I guess I didn't copy it. So let me undo that real quick. Control A, Control C. And you guys get the idea. I just screwed that up because anyways, but I'd have my short code here. So I'm just going to say USSC for short code. Then I'm going to put my comma. Then I paste the next set in with my US short code, right? Whatever it is that my short code is, then comma, then my next set in. And I'm going to do that until I have all 12 groups in there. Now this slows down the build a little bit, but it's not that big of a deal. And what happens is now I've got 600 keywords available for random tag generation throughout the entire page build. Instead of just using the same 6 tags across or 12 tags across every single site build where the only, or every single, all 30,000 posts on the site have the same freaking 12 tags. And look, if that's what they tell you to do and you guys want to do that, that's fine. I'm just telling you how I do it. And I don't have any issues with the tags causing over optimization of pages. Okay. The random post articles, that's only going to show 4 random posts. It's either, what is it, 4 or 5? I think it's 4. Either way, it's only 4 or 5. So if you haven't over optimized your text within the post itself, then those 4 or 5 generally aren't going to throw you over. And knowing that you have those 4 or 5 article titles or post titles in the sidebar, if you're using the random post widget, then you can just de-optimize your main body content by a couple of keywords to make sure that you're not going over that threshold. But this right here, the way that I do my keywords like this, it's a little bit of a process, but you get down to I can do it very quickly. Okay. And that's how I do it for every single one of them, so that my tags are really unique across every single post. Because not only am I getting the unique geographic modifier with every tag, I'm getting 12 tags that are randomly selected out of about 600 tags for every page build or post build, if that makes sense. Okay. So that's how I do it, and it works really well. All right. So Paramjeet says, hi, Bradley, watch your keyword research videos, really good training, and a couple of videos you asked to watch case study videos next. Where can I find that? I hate to point out the obvious, but I'm going to. All right, so let's go to training. If this is what you're talking about from the site that I shared with you guys last week, there's a button right here that says case studies in the navigation bar. So sometimes the things are, if it was a snake, it would have bit you. You know what I mean? If that's what you're talking about, the case studies are right here. Click the case study button. And there you go. I don't know how much more simple it can get than that. Next question. When using subs on expired domains, is it okay to link back from the homepage to the subs? I don't recommend it, Paramjeet. You know why? Because that's going to give a clear indication of, it's a physical connection at that point between your root domain and your subdomains. Now, it's okay to do it if you're not, I don't recommend doing it with these kind of sites, because what happens is if your root domain gets penalized, all your subs are burnt. They're gone. They're all de-indexed at the same time. But you can get a subdomain de-indexed without the root being de-indexed and without the other subdomains being de-indexed. And I've had it happen. So my point is that I don't ever make a physical connection between the sub and the root. I keep it completely separated so that there's no connection, because if you do connect the two and Google decides to de-index one of your subs, they could see the connection to your root and then de-index the root, which will subsequently de-index everything on the entire domain, period, all your subs included. So again, I wouldn't recommend it. So do you just keep your homepage blank with default server pilot page? Yeah, to be honest with you, I've been lazy with these builds because a lot of the things that I do are for testing purposes. And once I find something that works, then I scale it. And then what I'll do at that point is I use my root domain as kind of like, rebuild the old site. Sometimes I'll do that, but oftentimes I'll put a coming soon page on it. So I'll still install WordPress on it, which, or an HTML page, which is really easy to do. You know what I'm saying? So like I'll go into Cloudflare for that particular domain and I'll point the root to one of my hosting accounts, one of my servers that a standard WordPress type hosting account. And so that, because in Cloudflare, you can do that, right? You can have your subdomains pointed to your server for your ATM builds, and then you can have the root pointed to another host, which is another IP altogether. And that's what I'll do. I'll go in and I'll just change my A record inside of Cloudflare to point to a different server that I can install a standard WordPress installation. And I'll add a coming soon plugin. It's called Ultimate Coming Soon. which I can put, like a banner or something on and say, hey, site in progress, come back soon or something like that. I usually put a funny image up, like literally like something funny. And that's what I do. Or you can just do an HTML page, which is incredibly easy. You just point it to a server and you just upload an HTML page, which you can download free HTML templates online, easy. You can go to Theme Forest and buy some, get some free HTML templates, or you can buy one if you want to use across multiple sites. I like to switch it up so that I don't always do the same thing across everything. So sometimes I'll do the coming soon plugin with a WordPress install, and then sometimes I'll do an HTML page, and other times I'll just set it to no index so that the root doesn't even index. The subs will though. Okay, so I just try to keep it separate, but I never ever link from my roots down to my subs. Not with these types of builds, anyways. Okay. All right. Nigel says the Google Webmaster Tools say that my site had at least 250 clicks. However, AW Stats says no keyword visits in the Google. Is the Google Webmaster Tools correct? I don't ever pay attention to AW Stats or anything else. I've always used Search Console that's how I do all my keyword research and discovery. That's how I track ranking with all my sites until the batch of sites that I had all de-indexed within the last 2 weeks, and they were the only sites that I've ever had de-indexed so far with the ATM, and this is no bullshit, are the sites that I publicly shared here in these webinars. So that's why I said I know somebody's, and Brian confirmed this, that there's somebody that is lurking that has nothing better to do with their life than to sit around and watch these webinars and then report the sites that they see to Google, which means they're not working on their business. So you poor soul out there, whoever it is that's doing that, why don't you build your business instead of screwing with other people, But it is what it is. And the only sites I've ever had de-indexed are the sites that I shared publicly here. Everything else I've always attached to Google Webmaster Tools, but I do it across multiple Google accounts, never within the same account. I usually never use more than 2 sites in any one Google account. Okay. I've got literally hundreds, if not thousands of Google accounts, guys, from like all the different personas and stuff that I have. So it just makes it easy to spread my eggs across many, many baskets. But then that's what I do is I use Google Webmaster Tools. So I've never used any of the other things, period. So I can't answer that, Nigel. I just don't know. I just know that once Search Console identifies to me where traffic is coming in on particular keywords and specific pages, and that's when I usually will find a pattern in the data, or like some sort of pattern will emerge, or something that I can scale on. And that's usually what I'll do. So I'll do a couple test sites in a particular industry when I'm starting to build in something that I'm not familiar with. And then I let those sites age or season for about 30 to 45 days. And then I go back and I start analyzing the data, and you can export data and stuff like that from those. And then I look at it and say, okay, here's where I'm seeing some opportunities, like more, for example, this particular state has got more clicks and higher rankings than most of the other states for this particular keyword in this content. So I'm going to go do some state builds around this particular state and see what kind of traffic I can generate. And I just use the Search Console data for that. But again, guys, I'm kind of gun shy right now just because of what has happened in the last couple of weeks. But again, after going through all of the sites that I've built, the only ones that were de-indexed were the ones that I shared publicly. So the tag spin, it's just getspintax.com. Here, I'll drop it on the page, but it's getspintax.com. Why is it not? Come on. Let me see. Escape. Abort. There it is. Getspintax.com. All right. Aaron, you're welcome. Nigel, can you drop the link to the text editor? What text editor? I'm not sure what you're talking about. The tag spin, the getspintax.com. What text editor are you talking about? I'm not sure what you're asking about. If you're talking about SEO Centro, that's already on the page right here. Keyword density tool. So if you can clarify, Nigel, I'll be happy to answer the question, but I'm just not sure what you're looking for. All right, guys. Well, I don't have anything else for you tonight. Like I said, until I get a demo site build, I'd like to do some ring partner stuff for you guys. This was a short week for me. I only had 3 days because tomorrow I'm off with my daughter, and I was off yesterday because of a field trip with my daughter. So family first, but next week I'm back full time. So hopefully I'll be able to get something done for some ring partner training for you guys. If you have anything specific that you want to know or see training on, just request it. That's what these are for. And nobody's been asking for any requests of anything, which I kind of find hard to believe. But if you guys want something in specific, I don't mind doing training on it. I just need to know ahead of time. So I usually try to have these events pages up and a notification posted in the Facebook group, an event posted in the Facebook group, so that you guys know when the next training is. It's always on Thursdays. It's usually a 12-hour it alternates to, like, for example, tonight's from 8 to 9. Next week, 8 to 9 p.m. Eastern. Next week will be 7:30 to 8:30 or 8 to 9 a.m. And then the following week, it'll be back to the p.m. and the following week back to a.m. And that's how it cycles through. So I usually have the events page by Friday set up, and then you guys can come in here and post questions ahead of time. So that way it'll give me time to prepare something if you're looking for it. Okay. If you look, if you want something specific. But if I don't have anything specific, all I can do is come in here and answer questions and maybe share something that I thought about that you guys would find valuable. But I really would like to be able to give you guys some more information based on what it is that you specifically want. So that said, post on the events page once I get it posted. I'll try to get that up tonight. If not tonight, by tomorrow. And then you guys will have the ability to post for the next week. Okay? All right. Well, thanks for everybody being here. Just the few of you that were here. This was a very short, 35 minutes. That's not too bad. And we'll see you guys next week. Thanks. Bye.